to you and why they're on this panel. So let's start with Avery. Avery, go ahead.
My name's Avery. I'm a game developer. I work at a company called PopCap. Makes kind of casual fun. And before that, I worked at Spohn. I got to know the AbleGamer's cause through some of the web presence for a while, and then last year I was fortunate enough to really get to know the guy in a panel last year that I enjoyed quite a lot. So when Mark came to me with the opportunity to kind of speak and just basically have a really good excuse to hang out with him again, I said,
Well, my turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Spohn. I'm the editor-in-chief of AbleGamers.com. I'm also the outreach chair for the foundation. My job is pretty much to go to all these developers, like the one sitting next to me, and convince them that accessibility matters, and to get as much free stuff as possible.
My name is Johnny Richardson. I'm a local developer here in Boston. I do games and web development. I work currently in a marketing company called Morton Worldwide. We do experiential marketing all over the world, and in my spare time I work on game accessibility as a consultant and as an evangelist.
Hi, my name is Puccini. I'm a recent law grad. I also do special education and education technology advocacy. I'm also dyslexic and probably not for video games or any kind of gaming. I'm excited to be here right now. So that's it.
Welcome.
My name is Damien Schubert. I'm a game dev. I work at Bioware Austin, where we just shipped Star Wars: The Old Republic in December. I also run a game design blog that I don't update very often at all, called End of Design, and more frequently I write articles for Game Developer magazine. I'm in pretty much every other issue.
Thank you. Welcome, guys. So we come to this panel for a couple of reasons. PopCap is doing some really great studies and research. I don't know if you guys read on some of the power that they're finding in the games that they do, and that's why it's really important. And at the other end, Bioware, the AbleGamers Foundation has given 5 accessible mainstream games of the year, and Bioware's won 3 out of the 5. So I think that in itself is worth a hand. They just do really great game design, and great game design usually means accessibility is built into it. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, what does gaming mean to you on the panel? I'm going to start with you, Johnny. Like, what do you get out of gaming, and like, what do you think the disabled community gets out of gaming?
So for me, as somebody that lives a disability-free entire life, gaming for me has been the great equalizer. So as a gamer, I'm able to inhabit a personality and a character that is not disabled, or is disabled, or super enabled in some way, and I get to forget about whatever the stresses of my life are. I get to escape into that world. On top of that, it's been an amazing social mechanism for meeting people and getting to be really social and really just outgoing, because when you're a gamer, you're constantly online and in person and things like this, running into people that are just like you and really don't care what abilities you have. They just care that you love games. And I think that games are just a way to connect. And that's why I make them, and that's why I play them. And I think that's true for any disabled gamer out there. So
that's the only woman on our panel. give me the same. Like, what do games mean to you? Because you guys said in your opening statement they were so important to you.
They're huge. Actually, for me, so I didn't learn how to read until I think at a first grade reading level, probably until about 13. And so, you know, it's a long time. It's a big social art review. And I think for me, 2 things came out of it. The first thing is, when I played a game, I was good at button mashers. I was good at staring at a screen and not having to look at wording and being able to kind of reason things out for myself. And that gave me a lot of autonomy that I didn't get anywhere else. The other thing was, I was really good at beating boys. And that was all. And the other thing I think going forward, which I really didn't understand actually until my last year of law school this year, was that when you're in a game, you're constantly, if you can't read a manual, you're constantly asking yourself, like, okay, how can I use this object, or how can I approach this differently? Because you don't have any other resources. And that to me was the biggest tool going forward, because that has actually helped me jump ahead of so many different problems because I have that confidence.
Yeah, and I can back that up because I was also dyslexic, and when you're dyslexic, it's weird. You learn these really interesting coping mechanisms. One, to tell no one that you're disabled, and to hide the fact that you're a late reader. But as an adult, and a lot of people grow out of dyslexia. I know I grew out of dyslexia. I have numeralexia. I actually am really bad with numbers, so I have to do my own account. I think
you're my twin now.
I'm sorry?
I think you're my twin.
Yeah, no, I don't even do my own accounting because I will mess a checkbook up like you wouldn't believe. What, I got $9 million? I don't have a job that makes $9 million, but my checkbook says I do. And so I think you learn some really great coping mechanisms that once you grow out of it, and a lot of people do, like you have an edge that most people don't have. Steve, same question to you. So what do games mean to you? I gotta bring my guy.
Yeah. So I think that John basically covered a lot of the points I would make as well. To me, gaming is something that allows you to be included. When you have a disability, when you stand out from the crowd, everybody thinks it's awful to stand out. But when you stand out, all your desire is to be included. So in my situation, all I wanted to be was one of everybody else. And maybe the biggest statistic that I can quote that would illustrate my point is in somebody's lifetime, you're liable to play with between 10 and 100 celebrities and you never know it in an online game. In the same lifetime, you're likely to play with 50,000 disabled gamers and you'll never know it. That's inclusion.
So I want to look at the developers, and I have 3 developers on the panel right now. And what does inclusion mean to you guys? And I'll start with you, Avery, and go down the line. What does inclusion mean? Because PopCap, to me, is really one of the good guys out there. When you guys have added the colorblind mode, and you've done some pretty revolutionary things, and you did them really early on. So talk about some of that thought process around that.
Well, I think at PopCap, there's a couple of situational advantages that we have that make it easy to design accessible games. One of them, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the guy who runs our studio, Ed Allard, is not like a mission statement, corporate philosophy type guy, but he pulled together a sentence that kind of makes it easy for us to make accessible games because the studio's goal is to make great games that we're proud of for everyone to enjoy. That for everyone to enjoy obviously includes, differently abled gamers. It includes people that aren't gamers. It's supposed to include everybody on the planet. That's our goal. As a gamer myself, I love core games. I love hardcore games. I love games that are, in a sense, inaccessible to all sorts of people just because they're freaking hard or they're really badly made, but they're quirky and I like them. But at PopCap, accessibility isn't a question that we necessarily look at addressing for particular people that have different abilities physically. We just try to make our games as open and as accessible as possible, just in terms of how much experience you have playing games and that sort of thing. So it's a philosophy that is opened up. The downsides of that, I think, as you mentioned, and I said last year, I was working on a game called Zuma Blitz, but we didn't get colorblind mode in the day that we shipped because it wasn't necessarily front of mind for everybody. Until we actually came across a couple problems with, some colorblind gamers at the studios who mentioned it, and I was like, guys, we really need to push for this, but we don't have, as a design practice, we don't go through, I think, at least on most teams, like an accessibility checklist.
You want one?
We would love one.
We have one, right?
Yeah, I've definitely.
Johnny, same question to you.
So I love what you just said, but I think that it also has to do with just making your game better for everyone, not just disabled gamers. When you're making the game accessible, it's not about, I'm going to make this one-button game, or I'm going to make it accessible, playable on any device. It's about changing the way that you think about your game design. One good thing that Steve Jobs did, he was kind of a jerk, but one good thing was he said simplify. That was his core mission. And as a result, he's created some of the best things that we've ever seen as far as the intersection of art and text. And I think that if more game designers take that core mission and say, I want to simplify this. What is the one way that I can take this very complex mechanic of diving beneath the cover and then popping up and having the kill guy in a second? How can I make that super, super simple? And you'd be surprised at how many really successful multi-million-dollar blockbusters do not incorporate that idea at all, because you can tell that it's just like press right trigger and then press up and then press B, and you're like, what the hell are you thinking? The best thing you could come, and you clearly just forgot about all the gamers that are just maybe they're new games, maybe they're especially able, but just make a game that's easy to play, and you will do so much better for everybody.
Same to you.
And that wasn't a knock on any developers. Including these guys, because they did an amazing job.
So the interesting thing about it from the developer side is that it is hard to take certain games and certain game mechanics and simplify them down, and sometimes it's to the detriment of the game if you try. That being said, Star Wars is actually a good example. In some ways, MMOs are inherently community built inclusive for some of the reasons they talk about, some ways I'd like to get back to and talk about later. But in other ways, it's got a gazillion commands. There are a million things you have to do. You have to type in a whole bunch of stuff. If we simplify those things down, if we make them simpler, then there are reasons why we have a lot of those complexities. To me, a lot of being a responsible developer starts with at least saying, hey, anytime you have a fork in the road, is there a really good reason to go this way, or can we go left instead of right? It's actually really hard, for example, to go back and make your game systems colorblind friendly, which we are finding out now in Star Wars. However, if once you have that awareness going forward, you say, okay, we're doing a territorial control map or something like that. How about we show icons in from the very beginning? Like if you actually have that foresight at the beginning of the design of those systems, you can actually design it going in. Then it's not a whole bunch more work in order to do it, and you can actually get some of that stuff for the same cost you would have paid to get the system anyway.